Today we're visiting with Collin Osbourn. Collin wears a lot of hats here at BBU. His official title is Chief Financial Officer, but probably, Collin, one of the most important and intriguing things to me that you bring to the association, in addition to all your other responsibilities, is you're the Director of Performance Programs. And with that in mind, knowing how important performance data is and national cattle evaluation where we're going forward, just kind of touch on in broad strokes, the weights and measures programs and where we're at and the purpose of that program.
Thank you, Bill. Our weights and measures program and data performance collection process is very important to our association. We need all the data points that we can collect from beginning to end, and just simple points such as calving E scores as well as birth weights. And any of that information that we can collect is very important. As we progress through, we want to continue to collect our weaning weights, yearling weights, and ultrasound data going forward, and any additional measures that we can get, such as hip height, carcass data, and anything we can get on the endpoint.
It all begins with birth weights. Am I wrong? Just kind of walk our members through the you mentioned the data points, and just real briefly, at a bare minimum, what do they have to participate? What kind of information must they turn in on the weights and measures?
Well, like you said, one of the most important points that they can collect is a birth weight, as well as a calving E score that we can use and give those bull buyers, commercial bull buyers, the reliability of calving E's and low birth weights. That's one of the number one questions that we get is, what kind of calving difficulty am I going to run into using some of these bulls? And we want to assure them that there's not going to be any issues or calving difficulty. So collecting those birth weights is very important, something that we want to make sure that each member can do if possible. If we can't get those birth weights, well then in lieu of that, we'd like a calving E score. If we can collect birth weights, we want to get an actual birth weight within 24 hours of the birth of the calf.
One of the, sometimes, Collin, I'll have a new breeder ask me, why is birth weight so significant? Why do people always hone in on that? Could you elaborate the correlation between big birth weights and dystocia issues, and walk our people through that?
Well, one of the biggest problems that we do see when we run into issues with calving difficulty is birth weight. Whenever you start talking about the percentage of problems that come from either a small pelvis or birth weight, they always lean on the having a higher percentage of birth weight issues. The higher the birth weight in those calves directly correlates with the higher percentage of dystocia problems that we have. So if we can manage those birth weights, and we can eliminate a lot of those problems and potential sires that could cause problems in the future. If we can eliminate those, and that gives our producers that peace of mind when they go to sleep at night, they're not going to have to worry about problems in the future.
Absolutely. And one of the things, Collin, that I've noticed over the years, there is a really large heifer bull or low birth weight bull market available for people that have high accuracy, low birth weight lines.
Yes, sir. There's no doubt there. Like I mentioned, it's the number one question we get from any commercial producer out there. If they can't have a live calf on the ground in the beginning, it just doesn't do them any good. So that's something that's very important to them. If we could erase probably all other numbers, that's the one number that they would want to know, is some reassurance on birth weight and trying to avoid any calving difficulties in the beginning. So it's something that's very important to those guys. It's something that we try to stress at the association level to all of our members to give us some kind of information to be able to back up these, like you mentioned, low birth weight sires and give them a little bit of burden of proof so that they know they don't have to worry about a problem in the future.
Absolutely. Then the next logical chain of events, if you are a bull buyer, you want that calf born healthy and alive, and then obviously we want maximum performance from there. So weaning weight is the next data point that our commercial bull customers look at. Could you expand upon that?
Certainly it is. A majority of our bull buyers and our commercial producers out there, they still sell calves by the pound, and the majority of those sell calves at weaning or shortly after weaning. So that birth to weaning growth is something that's very important to our guys on the producer side and the commercial side. So we have to make sure and continue to collect the information as we move forward. We want all the birth weight information that we can get, like we mentioned. But then, like you said, the logical next step is weaning data. 205-day weight or something that falls within that age window, 45 days either side of 205 days of age, and collect that information. We want individual weights if we can get those. We want the management code that goes along with those calves of how they've been raised, and then we can use that to go into our system and calculate adjusted weaning weights, and go into our genetic evaluations producing weaning weight EPDs.
So what you're telling me is, yes, we're asking these producers to collect these weights, and we know that it can be a challenge and it's time consuming, but there is a payoff, in fact, for the people that do go to the effort to collect this information, because you can attach a lot of value to this information.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned high accuracy sires earlier when we were discussing birth weight. Weaning weight's the same way. If we can give them a sire that has a moderate to low birth weight and takes a big jump to high weaning weight with high accuracy values on those, it gives them that reliability that they can expect from that sire and progeny back out of that sire.
Absolutely. One of the real intriguing things, Collin, is through my careers I've had the opportunity to visit with commercial cattlemen. They, talking about weaning weights, you know, they may not necessarily call it a weaning weight, they may call it a pay weight, because if they're selling those cattle, you know, right off the cow, that's the weight they catch. Our producers, our commercial bull buyers, they can tell you what their pay weights have been, you know, which would correlate back to the weaning weights, as you've explained. So they're collecting their information as they go, and they rely on those records from year to year to track performance on that standpoint. So they're doing their own measurements, which may not be as individualized as what we as seed stock producers are doing, but it's still very important to them. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, Bill. It is. It's something, when you start talking about pay weight, that's all of a sudden it brings dollars into the equation. And so everybody understands dollars. The more dollars we can generate, the more dollars that they can use in increasing their herd size, purchasing better bulls, better females, and any other operating expenses they may run into along the way on a ranching program. So pay weight, weaning weight, however you'd like to describe it, is very important to our commercial producers out there, and as well should be very important to all of our seed stock breeders. It's probably the most impactful measure that we take after birth weight. Everybody keeps a calf to weaning most cases, so that's the number that they want to look at. And like we mentioned before, after birth weight, getting a live calf on the ground, the next most important weight measure is weaning weight, because so many of them are sold at weaning or just post-weaning. So we want to challenge our guys to continue to move forward, to continue to collect all the information they can. If there's new traits out there that they want to collect information on, let us know. We'll be more than glad to work with them and try to get them on board, and where we can get that data in our system where we can start to utilize it once we get enough data points there to analyze. So we do challenge our guys each and every day to continue to collect that information, get it to us, because if we're ever standing still, it's almost like we're going backwards in today's environment.
You bet. Collin, I've enjoyed it. We're in some future discussions. We're going to talk about ultrasound carcass data collection, actual carcass data, and start connecting the points. Collin brought up some things in the discussion today that I really want people to understand. All of these weights that we're talking about, folks, they're all tied to pounds, which is tied back to the dollars and cents. That was a great point that you made, and I'm looking forward to further conversations with you, Collin.
Same here, Bill. I appreciate it.